Welcome back to my channel, scribes. I'm so glad to see you here. I admit it's been a while since I created my first video. I'm getting into the hang of things. I'm trying to be more regular with my posting, but I really wanted to create this channel because I wanted to give you a peek inside my literary life. I am a writer, I am an author, but I also am what I call a storytelling evangelist. What that means is that I actually really and truly believe that storytelling will save the world. And I do believe it is going to be BIPOC women storytellers who create revolutionary writing that is going to change the world. So I do everything in my power to support them, to help them get their work out of their heads and into the world. Which brings me to my first book. So here we go. Book number one from my recent United States trip book haul. And let me tell you, I hauled a lot. My suitcase was too heavy. I had to take all the books out of my suitcase and carry them because, again, it was so overweight. They were going to charge me extra. But again, living in Spain, it's really hard to find books by Black authors, other authors of color that are contemporary, that are not fiction. So I think I can safely say that all the books that I purchased are nonfiction books. So my first book, dun, 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 The Message by Ta-Nehisi Coates. Because Ta-Nehisi Coates and I have the same message, okay? And that is that storytellers really have the responsibility to fix the world. That's why I call myself a storytelling evangelist, because when we tell stories, we can change people's minds. We can make them more empathetic. We give them the fuller picture of life. So hopefully they can make better decisions. I just think that Ta-Nehisi Coates does a really good job of taking kind of things that we take for granted in society and making us really think about them differently. That's a goal of mine as well in my writing. So The Message by Ta-Nehisi Coates, me and Ta-Nehisi got the same message. Storytelling will save the world. Next book is called Playing in the Dark, Whiteness and the Literary Imagination by none other but Saint Toni Morrison. Yes, I said it, Saint Toni Morrison. So this book, it's actually a national bestseller, and I've never heard of it. Okay, I'm going to admit that right now. I picked this up. This was literally the last book that I purchased. It's super thin, you can see. And it was basically based off of a speech that Toni Morrison gave. But I bought this book because it is about writing, and it is about whiteness and what we as writers of color particularly need to be aware of, and how to not write for the white gaze. Okay. But oftentimes BIPOC writers think, because we often are a minority in the populations we live in, that we have to write for the majority. And that's simply not true. And Toni Morrison was masterful at distilling that idea. And this is it's a tiny little thin book. Again, I've never even heard of it, saw it, had to purchase it. So I will be reading it so that I too can articulate this argument even better for my fellow writers and for myself. Next book. Okay, so my next book is Black Ink. This is an anthology edited by Stephanie Stokes Oliver. The subtitle on the book is Literary Legends on the Peril, Power, and Pleasure of Reading and Writing. So what this book is, again, at this point, my suitcase was already way too heavy and I had no business buying yet another book, but you couldn't stop me because I'm a book lover. I just love books. Some people collect wine, some people collect bottle caps. I collect books, but these are really books that I need as a literary activist and a storytelling evangelist. I need these books anyway, as long as we have that covered. So this book is really exciting to me. It's exactly what I need to have on my shelf. It's a collection of writings by Black American writers. We start with Frederick Douglass. We have something from Solomon Northup, Booker T. Washington, and we go all the way up to contemporary writers like Roxane Gay and Ta-Nehisi Coates. And it's essentially about the power of writing by Black writers. I mean, hello, my entire reason for being, the whole point of my professional life. So here we go. It spans more than 250 years. It's 25 essays on the power of the written word, particularly for African Americans who have used the written word for liberation. That's what I do too. So, of course, I had to buy this collection. Thank you, Stephanie Stokes Oliver, for collecting these essays. They're incredible. And it's so useful to have a book like this, an anthology, a collection, where we can see how these different writers have used the written word as a tool for liberation. So, textbook right here for this literary activist. All right, so another book about Black liberation. You see the theme here, right? The next book is literally called The Black Utopians by Aaron Robertson. Now, granted, I literally bought this book. I mean, I didn't buy it, but I picked it up because I love the cover so much. I mean, look at that. It's really nice, right? You shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but I'm going to be honest right now. I do buy books because of their cover sometimes. I admit it. There are certain books where I'm like, that cover is so beautiful. I just want to take it home. And I mean, it's like art. If you leave the book on like your coffee table, that's art. It's adding to the decor of your space. But anyway, I saw this cover. I loved it. I actually would like this cover, like on my wall. But anyway, this book is about, I'm going to read this. It's about the Shrine of the Black Madonna in Detroit and the founder of this church, Albert Cleage Jr., who wanted to create a Black utopia for Black Americans and started that project in Detroit. And it is a journey of this man's creation of this shrine in Detroit, but it also speaks about other attempted Black utopias throughout the United States. It's not particularly about writers, obviously, or writing, but the idea of Black liberation and what does it take for Black liberation to happen in the United States, I'm intrigued. And this is actually a good segue book because I am intrigued by the idea of Black liberation. I write fiction and nonfiction, and I do believe that it is storytelling, even fiction, writing novels and short stories can also be a source of liberation because it sparks our imagination about what's possible. So this book for me is an opportunity to look at real life examples that might spark my imagination for stories I tell in the future. So it's research to spark my creativity. The Black Utopians by Aaron Robertson. Do you guys do that? Do you buy books where you want to read and learn about a topic to spark something for your fiction projects? Octavia Butler did that she called it grazing. She would buy books about topics she was interested in, like space travel or dinosaurs, and she would just leave those books all over her house so that, when she was having breakfast or drinking her coffee, she would see, this book about a topic and just, she would just open it to any page and start reading. And that's kind of what I think this book is for. I don't know if I'm going to read it start to finish. I might just read the bits and pieces of it, but it's there to spark my creativity, my imagination, to help me with my future fiction projects. So speaking of books that I use for creative spark, to spark my imagination, I got a copy of the Bible. So yeah, I had to have a copy of the Bible. I think everybody who writes in, Western writers should have a copy of the Bible, just like they should have a copy of the dictionary, of thesaurus, because again, it's an excellent source of reference, but it's also, the stories in the Bible are excellent stories. So yeah, got one of these. All right, so my next book, it's a big one, literally. This is the museum catalog from the exhibit on Belle DaCosta Green. If you don't know who that is, Belle DaCosta Green was the first director of the Morgan Library. She was a Black woman who was appointed by J.P. Morgan, and her influence in the creation of the Morgan Library is unbelievable. But the reason that her story is so unique, besides the fact that she was a Black woman, is that she was passing. Yes. Everybody thought she was white. She passed as white to get this prestigious job. And this is just remarkable because of the level of access that she had, the influence that she had on Morgan himself, and the work that she did to create this library. It is truly incredible. And that's why I'm so excited and impressed that the Morgan Library is doing this. I think it's the Morgan Library. I'm pretty sure. Let me just double check so I don't lie here. Yeah, it's the Morgan Library and Museum. I'm so impressed that they did this incredible exhibit on her life and her contributions to library science and the Morgan Library, which is I'm not mistaken, it's the largest library in the United States. Um, and also that we then have this whole conversation about, again, I look at her picture and I'm like, she doesn't look white to me, but maybe that's just me. But we have this whole conversation about passing, about Blackness in the early 1900s. It's beautiful. And again, it will be a reference book for me because obviously any Black librarians I am interested in because I think librarians are superheroes. They're often like our hidden figures who are, superheroes who have not been recognized in our history books, if you will. But also the idea of passing is something that I'm very interested in. And I wrote a book about it. It's called Same Family, Different Colors. Well, it's a book about colorism, but passing, I think, falls into that conversation. So again, if you live in the New York area, you can go see the exhibit at the museum, the Morgan Library Museum. All right, so the next books are really just books that I got because I wanted them. I wanted to add them to my collection, so let's be quick about these. The first one is Maya Angelou's All God's Children Need Traveling Shoes. If you haven't read it and you love Maya's other memoirs, I think she had more than 9, definitely read this one. And then I purchased this book truly because it's just something that I want to have in my collection. This, I don't know, it kind of went under the radar for a few people, but it's such an incredible combination. Jamaica Kincaid and Kara Walker, the artist, collaborated on this encyclopedia of gardening for colored children. I mean, come on. Honestly, I just like, it's amazing. It's beautiful, beautiful illustrations from Kara Walker. And then it really is stories about different flowers and plants. And if you know Jamaica Kincaid, she actually loves gardening. But the stories about the plants are that they're kind of stories as much as they are, actual information about plants. So it's just a lovely book. It's being billed as a children's book, but I don't know if this is really a children's book. I just loved it. I wanted it in my collection. Anything by Jamaica Kincaid, anything with Kara Walker's art, I just wanted it. So I purchased it because, again, I consider myself a book collector, again, like a wine collector. Maybe one day I will want to know this information about different plants. So I got it. And I just like the way it looks. I think it's pretty. And yay, that's that one. All right, so there it is. That is my entire haul of books that I purchased during my recent 3-week tour of the East Coast of the United States. I don't even know how many bookstores I went to, but every city I went to, DC, Baltimore, Philadelphia, and New York City, I did stop at least one independent bookstore everywhere. I got this sticker. It says "Books Are Magic." That was one of the stores I went to in Brooklyn. Loved it. So again, when I buy books either for pleasure, just straight pleasure, or I buy them because I need the content for research for a book project that I'm working on, or I buy them to support my knowledge as a literary activist who supports BIPOC writers and BIPOC storytellers. So that's how I buy my books. And I'm very intentional about it. And that's something that I've learned how to do later in life as a writer and reader, particularly as a writer who has a purpose to the books that I write. So I have to have a purpose for the books that I read. Sometimes there's a book that sounds interesting or everybody else is reading it, and I still don't purchase it because I have a limited time to read. I have limited space on my shelves, and I want to make sure that the collection of books that I do collect, that I do purchase, and that I do read are adding to my own goals as a writer and literary activist. I recently wrote a blog post about cultivating a reading habit that speaks more about this. If you want to check it out, it's on the Read, Write, and Create blog. Until then, thank you so much for paying attention to me for this much time. I hope some of the books that I showed you today might inspire you to go get one of them. And if you want more information about a reading habit, about writing, definitely check out the Read, Write, and Create blog, and keep leading a literary life. Bye.